We'll find out. Yo, the Sports Bag Bros podcast is back on. Yes, we're coming off of a weekend of some sports that had happened. And of course, this time is mighty about the NFL. The reason why, because the last of the preseason games are over. The next time you see any NFL player doing anything of substance, it's going to be during the regular season where Thursday Night Football is starting up. Also going out of the country, playing in Brazil. They got games down there. Craziness. That's the NFL. They're trying to expand the obvious games going over to Europe as well, going with that flow. They've been doing it specifically with the Jaguars and now other teams just as well.
It's
What's been going on?
It's getting to be NFL all day, every day, just about. You know, they infringed on Christmas, and they're like, "Hey, we like this Christmas."
They
so
do.
We're gonna put games on Christmas, even though they're not on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, nor Sunday. But anyway, I don't know if you heard. There's some stuff going on here in Chicago. Caleb Williams feeling the wrath from Ben Johnson.
He needs to.
Right. You know, we talked about this before. I mentioned Bears fans are all excited, and people were asking me, why aren't you excited? They did the same thing prior to last season. You know, you want to tell me this year's linemen were better than the linemen they brought in last year? Okay. But, you know, last year they brought in Keenan Allen. This year they brought in a rookie, a second-round rookie, supposed to be a steal. But I'd rather take a proven veteran over a guy who might be a steal, who's never played it down. So I can't say that they're better this year than they were supposed to be last year. Yeah, they got a new coach, but he's never been a head coach in the NFL.
And that's true.
So, you know, if he's going to drop the hammer on Caleb because he's playing like crap, good, because Caleb deserves it. No rookie quarterback has ever been given as much as Caleb ever, at least number one draft pick.
Yeah, he had everything to succeed, but I think they took it away from him because he's a number one pick overall. You know, regardless of being a number one pick overall, you're going to go through your growing pains. Peyton Manning went through his growing pains when he came through all of those interceptions, threw some touchdowns, but then he grew from there. Now, this is the second year with Caleb Williams, and this is the second year we'll get to see what he's really all about. I think he showed some flashes, but I didn't watch him as much as you did. But you look at the general public, the general sports media, they were giving him some props. They were talking about the usual inconsistencies, but that's what you're hearing about a lot of these players, a lot of these young players. That's what happens. But I don't know what to really expect from him this year. Now with the new coach, you know, last year coaches kind of tiptoed around it because you don't want to upset the cart with the number one pick overall. But with a new coach who's not even your guy, he can say what he wants, does do what he wants. He has more leverage than the player, and I think that works in Chicago's favor.
It just sucks that there's question marks already. We haven't played the first game yet. You know, I think it was the first or second day of camp. He pulled the starting offense off the field because they looked like dog crap. And then they played the Chiefs the other night and looked just like a regular season game. You know, Mahomes played. The starters were in there. Caleb Williams, I didn't watch the game, but it looked like he played the entire first half. And before you know it, it's 20-0. And now he starts hitting or finding receivers. Now they score a touchdown. That's what happened last year. They'd be losing 17-0 late in the fourth quarter or 20-3, whatever. Now the offense starts looking good. But people forget the defense, they're not playing their number one defense. They're not showing different looks. They're not blitzing from different angles. They're playing prevent. Of course, you're going to find open receivers. So it looked just like one of the games last year. And then to make it worse, Tyson Bagent, who just signed like a $15, $20 million contract extension, he comes back and leads a comeback for the victory. Now, of course, it wasn't the number one chief defenders, but he still performed better than Caleb Williams.
Yeah, but that's what preseason is about. It's about evaluation. It's not about wins and losses. You would like to win. You want to win because you want to get some morale and go into the season.
You should have seen them celebrating on the sideline. You'd have thought they clinched a playoff spot.
And, it's like the Jaguars when Cam Little hit the 70-yarder. It's like they hit the Super Bowl game winner right before halftime. But that was something exciting that happened during the preseason. But yeah, I've always been, well, not always, I can't say before when I was younger, I thought that these games would mean something and that these coaches would, let's do it for the people at home for it, Jay. But no, they're doing it as part of their usual evaluation. And now there's even less to evaluate, in my opinion, because you have fewer games to play. And but they keep these players in camp and they're not cutting them every week like they used to do. They're doing all the big cuts now. Now that all the games are over, all these teams have to have their rosters down to 53 men by Tuesday, and we'll see what's left. But yeah, at least it gives time between now and the season starting for these players who do get cut, waived, or whatever, for them to latch on with other teams. But with the Chicago Bears, hey, they start off, they're being looked at in a brighter light. They're starting off as the Monday night team against the Minnesota Vikings for week 1. So all eyes will be on them. All eyes will be on Caleb Williams. But is this more about Ben Johnson getting his first job as head coach and as celebrated as he was in Detroit for what he had done? Or is it about Caleb Williams and having the number 1 pick overall from last year's draft, seeing his second year and seeing how well he does in a national audience?
I don't know. I just can't help but wonder if Ben Johnson's on the sideline thinking, man, I wish the Bears had drafted Jaden Daniels.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people were thinking the same thing, especially after watching what Jaden Daniels had done during the season. And now his troubles are over. Now that McLaren has gotten his big blockbuster deal,
bag.
These boys is ready. The boys are ready now up there in Washington. I like to see. I've never been a hater of the Washington Redskins, and I've never been a fan of the Washington Redskins. I'm a Jets and Steelers fan. I've always been that way. But I see the Washington Redskins. You respect their organization. When I was coming up, it was Joe Gibbs anyway, so you respected them automatically. And it's nice to see the NFC East playing well. The defending Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Washington Redskins are making their renaissance. Jackson Dart showing some moves, but it is preseason. The Giants may do a little bit better than what they did last year. I don't think there's too much to call for because they didn't do much at all. And then the Dallas Cowboys, the Circus is still in town down in Dallas. So the NFC East is going to have a little bit of razzmatazz to it this season.
I don't know. This might be a silly question, but are they eliminated yet? I think I saw it on Facebook.
They're on the clock, right?
Cowboys eliminated.
I don't know. Why is it like this all the time? Is it a Jerry Jones issue? He doesn't have the power. He has power regardless of who he passes it on to. As long as he's alive, he's still going to have some power. You have the Micah Parsons deal going on. It's another circus. Dak Prescott, not necessarily a circus, but now that Joe Milton, when the opportunities are coming during the preseason, he's looking like he's a preseason good quarterback. And I think he will be a decent quarterback, maybe even a good quarterback in the future, maybe the successor of Dak Prescott, because up in New England, they had to let him go because they had their number 1 guy with Drake May. You can't have 2 young guys together. So it's like when they had Rohan Davey up there with the Patriots. He comes down to Dallas and he's looking good. They got rid of Trey Lance and he's getting his opportunity. Looking pretty damn good every time he gets an opportunity. I mean, the ebb and flow, but he looks pretty damn good. If that goes down, I think they're confident that Joe Milton can come in and do something instead of just absolutely implode like most young players would.
Did Deshaun Watson get cut?
No, nope.
I saw a Browns quarterback.
Tyler Huntley got cut. Tyler Huntley got cut. They're going to run with the 4 quarterbacks they have, which Joe Flacco's going to be the starter. Deshaun Watson's on the team, but he's probably not going to play this year unless there's an absolute emergency. They just can't wait to cut him during the offseason because of that money and even some of that dead money that would be left around. They was like, you know what? We'd rather cut him then than now because it'd be even more money if we cut him now. And then you have Dylan Gabriel, the rookie, and Shadua, the rookie. And after what Shadua did last Saturday, got his yellow jacket all dirty with those 5 sacks. Come on. I mean, come on. This is preseason. Just as much as it was preseason when he was doing well, it's preseason that he's not doing well.
Yeah, that 1 sack he took was bad, though. He held the ball and tried to scramble. It was like a 18, 20-yard loss. That was bad.
Yeah, and
but that's not news. I don't know why I got a notification for that. I thought it was Watson that got cut.
because it's him. And I know there's been some clickbaiting fools out there. It says I saw one article just a few minutes ago. Cleveland cuts polarizing quarterback. There's only one polarizing quarterback on the roster, and that's Shador. And they did it well. You can call, I guess, Deshaun Watson's a bit polarizing, but it was Tyler Huntley. So stop with the clickbait nonsense, man. People are going to read it anyway, even if they think it's Shador. And I know people were looking forward to him failing, and there was a contingent that wanted him to succeed, and they overblew his start when he had the nice start, the 2 touchdowns, and looked very nice, even though he got a little rough in the first couple of series. But now he sacked 5 times. And of course, you hear the conspiracy theorists out there claiming the coaching staff did it on purpose. These are the people we're talking about. The coaching staff allowed him to get sacked on purpose. They didn't give him the right. I watched Chase Daniels. And now that you put me on, I've been watching Chase Daniels join. He's breaking him down. He knows how to break him down. He needs to be a coach. That dude needs to be a coach one day. But he's talking about the offensive line and how the guard was screwing up and how some of these linemen were really screwing up. It wasn't all him, but the one you were talking about, that was him. That was him.
You can see him, and you got that clock in here. Get rid of it, and he's still holding the ball. They didn't try to scramble. It was too late. But if I'm a Browns fan, I have to question what in the hell are they doing? Keeping 4 quarterbacks? 4 quarterbacks.
Well, I'm thinking now with that 17th game and knowing what the situation, though, with Deshaun Watson, you don't want to play him. You can't trade him because I believe once he's done, once they do cut him, he'll never play in the NFL again. He'll just take all that money that he has. He'll never play again. Which team would pick him up with the background he has? He's ruined himself. So they just have him because they have to have him. So they get the best of, I guess, best of both worlds or just a world period. You get him on the team, which you're not going to use.
Draft day. Why draft 2 quarterbacks?
I can see why it made sense in Cleveland Brown world, who hasn't made a lot of great decisions in decades.
Kevin Costner wants his picks back, man.
Yeah, right. Come on, get those picks back. But look, these Cleveland Browns taking 2 quarterbacks. Dylan Gabriel's the one you wanted because you knew what you were getting. He's either going to make it or he's not, but he does have some cerebral activity. He's shown it, and he's played well. He's played at Oregon. He's played at Oklahoma. He's played at UCF, so he's been around, and you got a nice long roll of film to watch. On the other hand, Shador does have talent. You don't know how much is really talent, how much is hype, but hey, he's shown you. You've seen that he has some talent. But I also still go back to the entire picture of Shador. And it may be just a picture of growth because it shows him being at South Carolina as the 4th and 5th string quarterback. Couldn't cut it there. He goes to Jackson State, where Jackson State unequivocally has the best team in HBCU, period. In the SWAC, the MEAC, it didn't matter, but he still couldn't win a championship, which is the Black College Championship, the Celebration Bowl, where he couldn't beat South Carolina State. He couldn't beat North Carolina Central. Still, he didn't win a championship. Then he goes to Colorado, a legitimate Power 5 conference. He looks good in some instances, doesn't look very good in others, but it was the offensive line in some instances. The running backs proved that they couldn't run. The wide receivers, well, it was more of Travis Hunter catching as a wide receiver. So, talent-wise, I thought he was a late first, early second.
I just think they're prolonging the inevitable. When they're 4-4, are they going to continue to run Flacco out there? What's the point? At some point, you gotta put in one of the young guys, whether it's Gabriel, whether it's Shador, one of them got to play. But you gotta start moving your franchise forward. Flacco's not going to be around much longer.
I can see how it made sense, though, in the Cleveland Browns way and the way things are on their roster. And primarily knowing you got Dylan Gabriel, you got him in the 3rd round, which is a semi-premium pick. And then you got a guy who probably is likely a 1st rounder, probably even a little bit of a 2nd rounder. You got him in the 5th spot. And it was all about off the field. So you know that he can learn on the field. It's just a matter of hoping that he finally gets with the program, stops the prima donna and ignorant nonsense, and just plays football, live up to his talent, and he and Dylan Gabriel will ultimately be the 2 battling it out. Maybe it was put there to put a fire under him.
You already know because Flacco's on record years prior.
Yeah.
He ain't no mentor.
He ain't no mentor. He said that to
So
Zach Wilson. He like, yo, bro, I ain't here to play with him. I'm
if
here to
you
get
think
my own job on.
if
And,
they think Flacco's gonna be a good influence on the young guys and put them under his wing, I don't think so. Because the sooner they develop, the sooner he's out the door.
yep. And every chance he gets, he's like Michael Myers. He keeps coming back, different teams, even the same team sometimes, and he just keeps coming back. But let's see how he starts the season. Of course, he's not going to have the arm strength he once had, but he can just go down the field. He's that stopgap guy. I don't think he even thinks he's anything other than a stopgap guy. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take before that gap is filled by someone other than him. Now, the reason why they have the 4 quarterbacks is because of the unique situation they have with Deshaun Watson being on the roster because of economics, not because he's not good, not because he's bad. I think he's bad now. I just think he's bad. He's nothing like he was in Houston. This guy's awful. I mean, he's just not a good quarterback. When he gets out there, he's just terrible. And then last year you had Jameis Winston, who was terrible number 2, and I thought he'd be better. But anyway, I can see their situation and how it's turned out. And maybe you have Dylan Gabriel pushing the should have been first rounder in Shador, and lighting a fire under him and seeing if he could become the player that he may become. We'll see. If he gets cut, it's going to be legitimate. Or if he doesn't make it as the number 1, it's going to be legitimate. I don't think it's going to be some agenda, which some people feel that it is, putting in the wrong lineman, setting him up to get sacked, all this nonsense they were saying. I don't think that's going to be what it is with them.
So what do you think about Thursday night's matchup, Cowboys and Eagles, kicking off the season?
I think the Eagles are just, they still have a lot of their parts. I think when you look at Jalen Hurts, what I thought about him.
I'm asking from the standpoint of, like, do you think that's a good kickoff game?
No, I don't. Well, name-wise, because you have the Dallas Cowboys and they're allegedly America's team and the brand itself.
I don't think they've been America's team for many years.
They have been that. They have, it's like the Raiders, win baby win, and when have they won? These guys haven't won in a long time, but they still
just win, baby. Just win. You got to
just win, and just win. When was the last time you had won? That's how it. Even when you were in the Super Bowl with John Gruden, you didn't win. But anyways, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the marquee matchup.
It's just
they could have done something different.
I don't think that highly of Dak. I'm not gonna say he's a scrub, but he's not top 5 in the league. I don't know. I don't know if he's top 10. I just think they could have came up with a better matchup to start.
You know what? They could have done Buffalo and Kansas City. That would have been excellent. That would have been a way to jump it off.
Or even Buffalo and Baltimore and the Chiefs.
Yeah, shoot, you got a lot of things popping in the AFC, but they went with the old NFC East matchup.
I think Dallas. I would have preferred Washington and the Eagles.
You know what? That would have been even better. I mean, that's pretty easy because you have that rivalry.
We want to see what was that a fluke last year, or are the Redskins gonna really do something?
Well,
yes, I said Redskins.
That's what they are, Redskins. Jaden Daniels, is he going to have what C.J. Stroud had last season in his second season where he took a step back? Still got to the playoffs, but he took an obvious step back. Did teams catch up to him, or did he just kind of rest on his laurels and didn't get better? I don't think he rested on his laurels. I don't think he comes across as that kind of guy. He loves football. Like you said, they all love football to be at this point. But I think Jaden Daniels just has a different style because he is a bit rambunctious. C.J. Stroud was still one of those laid-back guys, but things was happening. He kind of let things fall apart around him, and he'll still just sit there like Charlie Ward was in college, just sat there calm and still found an open man. Jaden Daniels, he's excitable about the things that he does. Short games that he gets a touchdown or a first down on, he's happy about. He makes a big play. He's showing you how happy he is. That wasn't what C.J. Stroud was all the time, at least. When he was making his big plays, it was like just another day in the park. It's nice to have a quarterback like that. But I think Jaden Daniels now, and especially with McLaren, hopefully there aren't any severe injuries that's going to take away from this. They did make a trade in the past couple of days. Brian Robinson, their running back, is now in San Francisco. And I do remember him when I went up to Atlanta to watch the Miami Hurricanes play against Alabama. And I said, yo, this guy's going to go to the draft. He's not going to be a stud, but he's going to be a very solid player. They took him in the third round. He was a solid player. Got shot before he even started. What's going on there? But he was a pretty solid player. The injuries, from what I read, is one of the bigger reasons why. He hadn't been healthy in his entire short career with Washington. And so it made him expendable. They sent him out to San Francisco. How many opportunities is he going to get out there with Christian McCaffrey, unless Christian McCaffrey keeps up with his injury history?
Didn't they trade for a running back last year too?
Who, San Francisco?
Yeah, because McCaffrey was hurt.
No, that kid from Georgia Tech.
Or they
that was running the ball well. No, he was drafted like I think a couple of years ago before.
All right. I thought they traded for somebody because McCaffrey was hurt. But
now he played some big games. He had some big games. I was surprised because Cody Schrader, who came out of Missouri, got to San Francisco as an undrafted rookie, was surprised the hell out of me. He led the SEC in rushing and then doesn't get drafted. I think that might be the first time that's ever happened. He doesn't even get drafted, and then he doesn't make the team. I think he's in with the Rams now on their practice squad, but he did get some kickoff returns during the preseason, so maybe he sticks with them in a more normal capacity, not as a practice squad player. He may just make the roster as one of the starting play, but one of the kickoff returners perhaps. But yeah,
so what's the depth chart for your Jets? Where's my guy Adrian Martinez?
You know what? We talked about him last Saturday, and man, I'm not gonna say my guys disappointed me, man. These dudes are up there. They're supposed to be my eyes and ears while I'm down here watching from afar, still keeping up with the Jets because we're able to do that kind of thing. They was like, man, this Adrian Martinez, yo, he looks like a good player. Looks like a good player. You've been watching this guy since last year. You should know that he had something to offer based on what the Jets have right now. You know, you have Justin Fields starting, and you know how tenuous that could be. But then you have Tyrod Taylor, the 13, 14-year veteran, but now he has a knee injury. Adrian Martinez is now the third-string quarterback who may easily get that opportunity. And then you have Brady Cook, the undrafted rookie who I thought has shown some moxie. Maybe you have teams carrying 4 quarterbacks. The Jets may be more traditional with the 17-game season. They will keep their 3. He could be a practice squad player, so you still keep him in-house. But Adrian Martinez, you know, he looked good in his first game, through his first pick in the second game, through another pick in the last game. But all of those things in between that coaches like seeing in him, I think that helps. And I think even up there in New York, they don't realize his entire trip, his entire journey to where he is right now. Man, I hope he could run the ball. This is the Adrian Martinez who ran the freaking option in Nebraska. He can run the ball.
They didn't run option too much.
They didn't run the option, but I saw it.
No, he could scramble, he could run, but they didn't run option.
But did he run like 70 yarders? He broke like 60 or 70-yard runs.
Maybe 40, 50. He might have broke one. He wasn't dynamic like Justin Fields. I mean, he's a good athlete, but he wasn't a threat to go to the house. No.
You know, I know he had some explosive. Now, explosive like Justin Fields is not the same, especially when he was at Ohio State or even the little bit he was at when he was in Georgia. But I thought when I saw the highlights of
Taylor Martinez,
you know what,
who played many years before Adrian.
Yeah, you know what, I'm thinking about Taylor, but
Taylor could take it to the house.
Taylor could take it to the house. You know what, I might be getting my Martinez's mixed up here.
Yeah.
But I did see Adrian Martinez as well, because when he did transfer, because he was there for a while. Then when he did transfer to Kansas, I was like, this guy's going to pass the ball at Kansas State. And then he did pass the ball.
Yeah.
And he did well passing the ball.
The worst thing that ever happened to Adrian Martinez was Scott Frost.
Well, I think Central Florida wants a part 2 to that, so he's back down in Central Florida, Scott Frost. I don't know, man. I thought for sure Nebraska was going to be back to their old winning ways when Scott Frost came after what he had done at UCF. But then, of course, when you do the looking back and you realize that those were George O'Leary's players, and he just took over that program when they were ripe to do what they did, and they were the quasi-national champs that year, according to them. According to them, they were the quasi-national champs. They beat the team who beat the team. They beat Auburn. Auburn beat Alabama. Alabama won a national championship. UCF ended undefeated. So in the bowl game, beating Auburn. So I guess they have a claim. But yeah, Scott Frost, I said he would do better. Maybe he learned his lesson, coaching wise, coming back to Florida, probably doing something at UCF again. Damn, that program I thought would continue to ascend. It hasn't. It kind of mellowed out. South Florida has a great opportunity. I think it really helped them last season when they gave Alabama that tough game, still lost. But I think it gave them a little bit of confidence knowing they could hang with the big dogs, and they realized that wasn't necessarily the Alabama we had gotten used to in Kalen DeBoer's first season.
What conference are they in?
Who?
South Florida.
South Florida. Oh wow, are they not at AAC? I think. I can't remember anymore because I know Central Florida is in the Big 12. The Big 12 now. It doesn't make any sense. But I think South Florida might be in the AAC.
A lot of the conferences don't make sense. You got
exactly. We're not going to sit here trying to.
And there's
make
38
it make sense
teams
when we have Oregon.
38 teams in the Big 10.
West in the Big 11, 12, the Big 19.
Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but still, even when they picked up Penn State, they still call them Big 10. They had 11. Now they have what, 20?
They had 11. That's why we used to call them the Big 11. Yeah, that's what they are. The South Florida and the American Athletic Conference.
Come up with a new name.
The AAC. That's what they are. Oh, that's what UCF. That's what USF is at. And Sam Barrington, that I know of, is still going to be the color commentator for the South Florida Bulls for I think this would be his 5th season doing it. But anyways, yeah, the season's about starting up. He's doing some things down there, alumni-wise, fundraising-wise. So, yeah, all of this college football is finally getting up.
When does Miami start their season?
Miami's starting on Sunday night against Notre Dame. National game.
Oh,
ABC.
that's right. That's right.
I was going to go down to that game, man, but I was like, you know what? Opportunity cost. And I had to drill that into my head because if I didn't think about that,
is it up
it's going
here?
to be here in Miami. It's going to be in Miami.
Oh, down there? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to go. I was going to make my decision on Wednesday, but I thought about it because, things that I'm doing on this side personally, trying to make things happen. I'm like, you know what? Opportunity cost. I have to make it sound reasonable because if I just did what I normally do, I just go down and watch Miami play. But hey, it's already looks like it's going to be a sellout, but primarily mostly Notre Dame fans. That's what they do. But Miami's a 2-point underdog at home in that weather. And I don't know what to say, but based on what just happened high school wise here in the state of Florida this past Friday or even Saturday, when St. Thomas Aquinas lost to Martyr Day from California, came over to Florida, whooping out Florida boys, our best Florida boys, and then Chaminade Madonna lost to a team from Pennsylvania, St. Francis, broke my freaking heart. So I hope that's not a precursor to what's about to happen with my Caves come next Sunday night. Damn, the Memorial Day weekend, we had 0
Labor Day.
Memorial Day, damn it. Well, Memorial Day is the unofficial start of summer. Labor Day, the unofficial end.
My Huskers playing at a neutral site against Cincinnati Thursday.
They should be. You know what?
We're gonna have to get in and out Thursday.
Yeah, I hear that. What time's the game?
Probably 7. I don't know for sure, but like I said, we're gonna have to get in and out. I'm not missing it.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, that's college ball. I'm telling you, the way the NFL has been going and the changes that have been made, I know some of these changes, if not most, have been made for the betterment of the game and the health of the players. And I still have that nostalgic deal about players from back in the day. I still watch the old Hank Williams intros for Monday Night Football. The dudes with the big shoulder pads, Freeman McNeil running for the Jets, Big Pete Metzelaars for the freaking Bills. As
big as Kevin Mack was, his shoulder pads.
Oh my God, the dude had a grand piano on his shoulders, man. He was carrying a couch, and that dude was getting in there. That's why they couldn't stop him. But I watched those old intros, man. I was like, damn. That's not what we're seeing now. Players are good, very good, excellent athletes, but it's not the same football we've seen when we were kids. Damn, I hate saying that old man stuff, but damn, man, I remember my grandfather talking about Y.A. Tittle. Damn, is that my Y.A. Tittle moment? Come on. But
it was funny. I saw a clip today. Barry Sanders, he was asking somebody, I don't know if it was a podcast, it was some type of interview, but he said, do you remember when Billy Sims kicked that guy? Then they showed the clip, and he hurdled somebody and kicked the dude like right in the side of the neck.
Yeah.
And it might have been Rich Eisen, I can't remember, but they're asking him, about jumping over players, and then they showed Saquon jumping over backwards, and he goes, well, I never tried to jump over anybody. I didn't have hops like that, but
Barry, he was dunking. Barry
I
was
know. I
dunking.
didn't know what he was talking about because I remember him being in
Too
that
humble for his
celebrity
own
dunk
good.
contest. But he said he didn't like leaving his feet because that gave defenses an opportunity to give him a good hit. And he wasn't trying to take no good shots.
Nah, he
But
didn't take many good
I,
shots. He got
I just thought it was funny, man. He brought out the old Billy Sims karate kick to the neck.
Yeah, and Billy Sims was the player there before he came, wore that same number 20. I remember him at Oklahoma as a little kid, watching him at Oklahoma. And he was that good when he went there, but the lines were so bad when he was there. And they did get good for a little while. They had a nice little, I think, 9-game winning streak or 6-game winning streak when he was there. But then that tragic knee injury, as it happens, and it sucked. And, you think about Gale Sayers and the injury he had, and these dynamic players end up not being as dynamic because of the times, because we know Adrian Peterson had that kind of an injury, comes back the following season and hits $2,000. Technology, man, that's what it's about. But going back to the college football this past week was 0 week, and you had Kansas State taking on Iowa State in Dublin, Ireland. This is what we're talking about. No home field advantage for anybody. Cyclones, I guess they aren't Irish. Like Wildcats, I guess they aren't Irish. You just had two teams over in Dublin. And if I was just going off the cuff and saying I'm going to take the better team, I would have taken Kansas State. Iowa State won. And from the gambling aspect this upcoming season, with things being what they are NIL-wise and the way the transfer portal has gone, there isn't a sure thing anymore. Even these top teams are no longer a sure thing.
Right. Now, as far as playing in Ireland, it may not be fair, but don't you think Notre Dame should play there? Like, if they're going to go to Ireland every year, if they go to Dublin every year, the Fighting Irish should be playing in that game.
They do. They play Navy over there. They play Navy
every
in
year.
Ireland. Yeah, not every year, but they play.
That's
Navy.
what I'm saying. Every year.
Oh, not every year. That I know money doesn't make a big deal for. It's not a big deal for Notre Dame, but yeah, that's pretty damn costly because I know also Michigan is talking about having a game in Germany, whether it's next season or the season afterwards. They're looking for a game in Germany, and I think they're going to get it. I mean, the winningest program in college football history is Michigan, and they're recently a national champion 2 seasons ago. Yeah, they have the funds. That's not an issue with them either. As big as their campus is, and as big as their alumni is as well. Yeah, but college football is back, and these Canes are going to try to step up. The number 1 team in the country, Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns. Number 2 team in the country, Penn State. Really? I'm wondering. Come on. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Ohio State did seem to lose quite a bit.
Yeah,
so
they did.
I can see them not being tops in the Big Ten. And how much did Penn State lose? They're really good last year. So
Ty Warren, I think, was such a huge part of their offense. And I know their defense is what really gets them done. But that offense, when they really needed it, Ty Warren, that 6'6", 6'7" tight end who did everything, catching 16 passes, 10 passes, as big as he was, as athletic as he was, obviously in the NFL now, I don't know. And I can't say I wouldn't mind seeing Penn State win. I still have the grudge from 1986 when they beat the Miami Canes. So I still have the damn grudge when Vinny Testaverde thought it was a good idea to throw those picks to Penn State.
That was a legit win for them, though.
That's what I'm saying. It was a legit
not
win.
Like when Florida State got help from the refs against Nebraska in '93.
Well,
that would have been 3 straight championships, man. 3 straight.
They'd have been up there with some of these Division II schools or what?
And not only championships, it would have been 3 straight undefeated seasons.
Then I think, you know what? I think only 3 that I know of, at least in recent memory or recent history, modern times, 2 teams, and I think they're Division II and Division I AA. I think Appalachian State won 3 in a row. I think they did, and I think North Alabama, I think, won 3 in a row. I know Ronald McKinnon was their linebacker. I think at that time that they won 3 in a row. And I think the Pittsburgh Gorillas might have won. We're going way. But anyway, yeah. You know what? I guess I wasn't looking at it as hard and calling them bad calls when Florida State did beat Nebraska. But yeah, it was a close game. What, 20-16?
18-16.
18. Yeah, that's a damn close game. And if there were bad calls, it couldn't
There,
help but affect the outcome.
there was a 14-point swing. They called a phantom clip on the punt return against Nebraska. Then Carlos Floyd fumbled the ball before he got into the end zone, and they called it a touchdown, and Nebraska recovered the fumble. That's a 14-point swing. That game should not have even been close.
Wow, and I thought that was the same year they had Scott Bentley. He was
And
supposed to be the reason.
that's with Charlie Ward and
Ward
McCorvey,
Dunn.
and Ward Dunn and all those guys,
all those
Floyd,
dudes, man.
And they struggled against that Nebraska defense.
But that Nebraska defense was freaking good. I mean, it wasn't like they were sucking. Those dudes was good.
Really good. Yeah, you're right.
And they stepped it up after that and just got revenge from everybody after that, man. You know, they started just beating everybody down. Start with another Florida team, the Gators.
By the time it got to the Fiesta Bowl, they were on another level, man. Spurrier and the Gators had no shot.
Bro, I picked the Gators. I just blindly picked the Gators. I was like, man, look at all the Florida boys. Steve Spurrier's going to throw that thing all over the place. And it didn't happen that way. I remember, I think that these Florida players might have taken it lightly as well because they were doing these interviews, laughing and hawking this and that. You interviewed the Nebraska players. They were like on a business trip. But I was like, they're just scared. Shoot, they beat the hell out of them, man. And then Tommy Frazier doing what he did when all of those Gators were all over him and they thought the play was over. Man just popped out of it, ran the rest of the way. His home state team.
When was the last time a quarterback ran for 195 yards in a championship game?
I don't know. Not even Mike Vick. Not even Mike Vick. Ran against Florida State.
You would think those Gators might have gotten a couple words from Sapp and Ray Lewis. You know, even I can't remember who was it from Florida State. I don't know if Derek Brooks said it or Shade Tree said it, but he said, "Man, those guys, I never seen linemen hit our linebackers so hard. Like they're just physical." If you remember that Miami game, Warren Sapp was sucking wind.
He was sucking wind. The entire defensive line, I was like,
that whole line was physical.
It wasn't,
and the Gators were not ready for it.
No, the Gators definitely weren't ready for it, but I thought they would, man, because I was still looking at the big lumbering because everybody was saying the same thing. The big lumbering Columbian Cornhuskers, you know, at the time I think were they Big 8 back then? The big Cornhuskers still couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They're just big guys. The Florida speed, the Southern speed, and all that nonsense they kept talking about. Little did they know or even pay attention to how Tom Osborne was building those players, taking them from Florida, started with Tommy Frazier, getting that defense brought up to speed, the black shirts. Next thing you know, and I knew it wasn't completed because before Tommy Frazier came, they played Miami in that Orange Bowl, and they lost 22-0. Kevin Williams, I remember he made the touchdown, one of the touchdowns. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a dominant Miami team. And then slowly but surely, not even slowly, because in the matter of just 3 seasons, they were champs. Nebraska, they were champs, you know, and if according to you saying that how they were screwed out of that Florida State game, even 2 years later.
Yeah. So what happened, I believe, is Coach Osborne reached out to Bobby Bowden, and he said he sent some defensive coaches down there, and they revamped the defense. And they're like, you need more speed here, you need more speed here. So they moved safeties to linebackers, they moved quarterbacks to safeties.
That was Miami's damn ingredient right there. That was their blueprint.
And they got faster quickly.
Very quick. And they knew where to get these players. That's why I thought Scott Frost was doing the same thing. Just take these Florida guys. When they started losing with Scott Frost, I was like, maybe they don't have a lot of Florida guys.
Yeah, you would
check their roster. They had number of Florida guys. Like, what's going on?
They had a pipeline to Florida, right?
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, well, they had a pipeline, but they weren't getting the top players. Those players were still going to Alabama, still going to Florida, and Florida State was not falling off, so they were still going to Florida. Miami was falling off at the time, so they weren't necessarily going to Miami. But then you still had pretty good teams like UCF getting those players, and the time that USF had some pretty good players, they were getting some of those players. I was saying back then, Florida's 3rd and 4th tier players could still play anywhere in the country. When you looked at all of these teams in the country and how they got their act together, if they were just mediocre or just on the cusp, you look at USC. Carson Palmer was there, but Mike Williams wasn't there. Mike Williams leaves, goes over there. Now Carson Palmer's a Heisman Trophy winner. Tommy Frazier goes to Nebraska. They become national champions. You look at Kansas State started recruiting from Florida and JC like they've always done. Frank Murphy went up there. They started winning, not championships, but they weren't toilet boils anymore. And then on the Division I AA level, Fordham University was a great Division III school. They were going undefeated and beating teams in Division III. They came up to Division I, was losing all the time, came down to Florida. Next thing you know, they're in the playoffs in just a few years. And they had an article in the New York Times about that years ago of how they recruited from the state of Florida and built their team up. And I think their coach ended up jumping to a school in Virginia afterwards. But yeah, if you have anything that ails you, bring those Florida boys in, it'll get it right. And Greg Schiano did a lot of the same in Rutgers. Whoever thought Rutgers football would be something people cared about? He starts recruiting from Florida because he was Miami's defensive coordinator. Next thing you know, Rutgers, and even now, Rutgers is still winning games more so than they've ever done in their history.
Well, maybe moving to the Big Ten gave them incentive.
Well, they're only in the Big Ten because of their television market, being in that tri-state New York area.
You don't want to get your teeth kicked in every Saturday.
Sometimes you don't got to say so in the matter, man. Sometimes you don't got to say.
If you can do something to help your cause, you better do it.
You better do it. And you know what? Greg Schiano, to his credit, he's able to convince these Floridians to come up there. Typically, these Florida boys don't like going past that Mason-Dixon line because of that weather. I know they used to show the stats at South Florida. Once they go to a school like Cincinnati, and it's 49 degrees or less, they can't win a game. Like 49 degrees. That's kind of like a Chicago summer, man, a summer night in Chicago.
Man, it's suns out, guns out, 49 degrees in Chicagoland, bro.
Well, the whole world knows that. And you would think that.
No, you know what I mean.
Guns out.
Yeah,
I know. I hear you. But the bottom line, Florida boys don't typically go that far, but they're all over the country now. They've helped a lot of teams. I know that they recruit because I've been heavily into the recruiting over the decades, even Idaho recruiting from the state of Florida. And if you can convince a Florida boy to go up to Idaho, whether it's an indoor stadium or not, he still has to live up there during the year when there isn't any football.
You got to walk to class in that, man.
Oh, damn, for real. If that class is across the street and you got to feel that nut-hugging wind chill, damn, man, that's enough to change your mind. But anyways, I'm just glad college football is back. But I'm glad it's back because it's college football. I just don't like how college football is, how it is right now. You can't keep up with the players. There's obviously isn't any loyalty. Some players are up to their fifth team. Fifth team? How do you end up on 5 different teams? Dudes getting their doctorates because they've been in school for so long. Come on.
That's odd.
And that's what it is. I was just telling somebody, if Miami won the national championship this year, I wouldn't be as excited as I was back in 2001 when they won it. Even if some things might have happened under the table, all of this stuff is out in the open. I wouldn't be as excited as I was back in 2001 based on how we put this roster together. John Ruiz is our top booster. He's a billionaire. He owns a
I wouldn't care, bro. If Nebraska somehow made the playoffs, I'll be hype as hell.
No, I'll be happy. I'll even try to go, but it just won't feel. I know it won't feel the same as back in 2001. It just wouldn't. When I watched them play every game that season, and then seeing them in the national championship game, it's like, yeah, you're the best team. And you look at the stats and you talk about how if they never scored an offensive touchdown all season long, they still would have gone like 9-4 or 8-4, something like that. Just from defensive scoring. If they didn't score an offensive touchdown all season, they still would have gone like 8-4 or something like that. So that was allegedly organic back then. Now we know where the results are coming from. You hear people now, because they're not Ohio State fans, telling you how Ohio State paid $20 million for these players. But that's the landscape we have now in college football. College sports. It's just that football and basketball is leading the way because no one's paying that much for a freaking volleyball team or a golf team.
I don't know. I find it hard to believe that you wouldn't be
as excited as I was in 2001. I just don't think so, man.
To me, I don't think there's levels to to excitement for your team winning it. We just won it all.
See how you
we
won
won
it
the
though.
whole shebang.
Because you know what the deal is? Because even if they win, it's gonna be the same thing that Ohio State got. Once they won, once the euphoria ran out, which was the next day for other teams who didn't like them. Yeah, but it took you $20 million to do it. If you didn't have that money in this team, they wouldn't have done it. You know, these, and rightfully so. We're talking about these players like Alex OG, the kid who's just decided to go to Texas Tech, getting a $5 million contract to go there. $5 million. Now they got the number one linebacker going there. God, man, you know, I can deal with the NFL, and I can even deal with an equitable way of these guys getting the money they're getting. But the way it turned out, jeez, it's the wild.
Everybody's doing it and it's legal, so I don't
Everybody's
see how
doing it and it's legal. So,
so in other words, trolls are gonna troll. Like they wouldn't affect me.
Texas,
but what I just said about level of excitement,
mm-hmm.
I want to bring it back a little bit because I think if your team is like a major underdog and goes on a crazy run and wins it all, the level of that excitement would be more so than you just dominate all year. You knew you're the best team.
Oh yeah, now as
it's
an
just
underdog,
a matter of time.
But typically, that underdog team would have likely been one of those teams that didn't get all of those players, that didn't have that type of money spent. Those underdog teams that go under the radar, that's probably the team that probably spent $5 million and not $20 million. So when they finally make, you know what, they beat the big dog who spent the $20 million, the $15 million. They got through all of that and they came out unscathed, and now they're the national championships. There's some pride in that too. But when you just spend like Miami's spending, I mean, God, I hate even thinking that they're buying this championship. You know, damn, man. My Yankees can do it, but they can't do it. The Yankees are freaking pros. They can't do it here, man. And college football, especially when people held college football so near and dear all these years, and this is what it's coming to. Now, I'm going to be still happy. Yeah, the Canes have it. It's nice to use. It's nice fuel to have when you're doing the trolling or you're doing the ridiculing. But then when you think about it, you know how you got there. And you're like, yeah, I know. You know, you can still go out there and project, but you still know how you got there. Ohio State fans don't seem to be worried about it.
I mean, for me, like if my team wins and your team lost, you can't say shit to me. You can
absolutely.
try. You can say whatever you want, but was scoreboard, bitch.
That's it. That's all that should matter. But I just think the complexion of having all of this money put into these teams is changing it a little bit. I've spoken to some people who are diehard college football fans, guys who are reporters, people who've been around this game for decades, and they was like, they don't like the way it's going. I mean, they deal with it, and if their team wins, they're gonna like it. But it was like, I just don't like it.
Hate it worse when it becomes Big Ten versus SEC because it's bound to happen.
Well, I'm thinking that there's going to be a super conference anyway. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Those two are going to come together and come up with their own conference. Branding wise, I don't know what's going to happen. The SEC loves their brand, and I'm sure of late the Big Ten loves their brand because they're the last two national championships.
They'll probably call the Southeastern 10. 40 schools.
It doesn't have to make sense, right? You got like 40 teams in the joint. The Southeastern 10. They're like, you know what? Looks good. The logo comes out right.
The Big Eastern Conference.
I don't know how they put it together, but I can see how they're gonna take certain teams. Like Florida State would be one of those teams the SEC would bring. Miami would be one of those teams. Clemson, the teams they know that are going to bring the money and also bring the players. And then up there, in Big Ten country, they already stole all the West Coast teams that made any difference, and they already have their traditional teams too. It's all going to come down to what is Notre Dame going to do. Before, everyone used to not like Notre Dame's contract, their television contract. There was jealousy. Now Notre Dame's contract doesn't hold a count to anyone else's.
Yeah, does anybody tune in to NBC for college football?
Notre Dame home games, yeah, you still have a large contingency, especially up there in the Northeast where Catholicism is big, and it's also the home to the largest population, that eastern corridor of the United States, the largest population in the country, that little cluster of people in that area who just are mostly Irish, and they are not Irish, mostly Catholic, and they live and die by Notre Dame. And then, of course, you have just regular Indiana and other people all over the country. They're kind of the Yankees of college football. You have Notre Dame fans in California. You probably have them in Alaska. They're never going to play there, but they're there. So yeah, and I can't stand them, but
but I'm saying compared to every other game, is it really that many people?
Well, rocking the people who decide to rock with them, I think they can do without, and they've proven that so often already because they're independent for all of these years and they can still pick and choose what they want to do. Now, under a situation where the Big Ten and the SEC comes together, and it makes it more difficult for Notre Dame to move and maneuver to a national championship, will they make a decision based on that, or will it be based on money? I don't know, because they're going to be supported regardless. They just have so many fans, and it's Catholicism itself that money-wise it wouldn't matter because the money's going to be there. It's just how they're going to get to that road less traveled, I think, when it comes to the national championship, because no one's going to want to take the road they're going to have to take if they're on the outside.
One hurdle is their basketball programs are in the ACC.
Yeah.
So before they join the conference, they're going to have to resolve that issue.
You know what? I don't think so, because even right now, as an independent, they allow their team to play in the ACC because that's one of the dominant, if not kind of sort of still the dominant conference. They can do that. They're getting the best of both worlds right now. And then if they decide to go to another conference, I wonder if they can still keep their basketball.
You can have your football conference in one, your football program in one, and your basketball in another. I don't think that's going to work.
I don't think that can happen, because first of all,
so I'm saying they're going to have to resolve that issue.
Any conference worth a damn is going to, let them know that they're boss. They're not going to say, yo, you can't do what you want to do, especially if you have two powerful conferences coming together like the Big Ten and the SEC. They're not going to let Notre Dame get their way. Notre Dame is not going to have as much leverage as they think if they've been having for all these decades. If the SEC and Big Ten get together, those are the dominant conferences. They call the shots, not Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is either going to run with them or they're not. If they're going to be independent and including their basketball being in the tip, they can stay in the ACC basketball-wise. If their football team, which is the moneymaker, stays out, they can still.
Right, but I'm saying when they join the conference, they have to resolve their basketball.
They have to resolve it. I'm just wondering, because I'm trying to, as I'm saying this, I'm trying to think of a time where a team had a one sport in one conference and another sport in another conference. I'm trying to think if that happened before. Because, UConn was coming to my name, but they were still Big East, and they were playing Big East basketball. And so, and even right now, they still have what? They're not actually they're in the AAC now themselves, right? UConn, football wise. Oh, make sure.
I don't know.
Yep, they in the A. They're doing exactly that. They have their football team in the Big East. Their basketball team in the Big East, and their football team is in the AAC. So it can be done. So it's not unprecedented. But I'm thinking, with that kind of a conference, though, that's one thing. But the big conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten, and Notre Dame being involved, I don't think they'll be able to get away with that. I don't think that they're going to let that happen. They want every cent they can get out of that.
Pretty much.
So they probably will have to resolve it. See, a small school like UConn, even though the basketball is the dominant team, even though they had a damn good last year's season football-wise for their standards, they different conference, football and basketball. I think Notre Dame, wherever they go, I don't think it's going to be separate. They're either going to stay independent as a whole, or they can stay independent and keep the basketball team in the ACC. But what good is that anymore if those other teams, they cherry pick some of those teams to come into this major conference or this super conference? Because North Carolina, I think, would be one of those teams as well that they will bring in. And then they'll bring in Duke just as fodder because they'll have that basketball money. They'll bring them into the because of that money and that intermittent time that they do well in football. Every Haley's comment.
Yep. So we'll see. I think the Super Conference Championship will be coming pretty soon. Notre Dame will have to join one of the conferences, and
be surprised.
We'll see what happens.
I've been calling that for years. Okay. I've been calling it for years. hoping that it happened because I think the NCAA needs their comeuppance. All of these teams decide to do what they want, and the NCAA doesn't run anything. Whoo, they can keep New Mexico State. They can keep UNLV. They can keep all these other smaller schools. And by the way, UNLV did have to come from behind to win this past Saturday as well. Hawaii beat Stanford in Hawaii as well.
It could get ugly because then what happens with the NCAA tournament?
Basketball-wise,
NCAA could say, you know what, you guys, you don't get no invites.
Yeah, but they'll have their own tournament. They'll have the better teams.
It'd be sorry-ass tournament.
You know what? There's a lot of talking. And luckily, there are guys a lot smarter than my ass out there trying to put this thing together or have to be responsible for putting it together.
You need a mediator.
Oh, yeah. Shoot, there's going to be a lot of judges involved. They're going to mediators, judges. Everybody's going to be involved in this one here because no one wants to give up the money. The NCAA is not going to want to give up the money, but the Big Ten and SEC can dictate what happens. All the money is there. Texas has more money than all the schools in the country, with the exception of the Ivy League, with Harvard having all that money. So, and then you have Michigan, you have Ohio State. I mean, all the big dogs, Penn State, all the big dogs, LSU, Florida, all these big money schools are going to have it on their side. And the NCAA can do what? I don't know. Take all their power away, just keep their brand. I guess that's what you want to do.
Well, we will see.
Well, definitely we will see. So the Sports Bag Bros podcast will come to an end. We'll be back next time. I would say Thursday, but when we record the show, it comes out a little bit later, so I won't even give it any date. But this is college football week number 1 coming up on Saturday, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. Anyway, look at I'm dating it as if we're going to be doing it on Thursday. We'll do it on Thursday. But anyways, he's Bias, I'm Trav, and until next time, deuces.
Peace.